Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, channel audience, welcome to the episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan, just my co-partner Anthony. This is a Judo podcast for Judo players by two Judo players. Now, as you can see, I'm in a black void right now because my computer is not cooperating with me. So I'm not in my normal non-disclosed secure location. I'm in this very dark place right now. Not a dark place like I'm feeling bad. I'm in a dark place that I can't figure this out. That's what.
Yeah, if you're watching a YouTube video version of this podcast, basically Juan's camera, we had to turn it off because it was like doing some weird stuff. But it's okay. Most people watch a YouTube video to see me anyway, not you. So. Oh,
that's so harsh. That's harsh, brother. Harsh. So, but I'm still gonna be polite here. So, Anthony, how you doing?
As you know, you follow my Instagram. If you're not, then I don't know why not. But I got a new washing machine, so I'm so like, people are what do you call it? Messaging me saying like, "Oh, it's like such an adult thing to be happy about." I'm like, it's not an adult thing. It's just, I think if I had this washing machine or any other washing machine before, that was a decent one, then I wouldn't be this happy about it. It's just, I have been dealing with this washing machine that came with my house that was absolutely rubbish for like the last 3 or 4 years. I basically, long story short, sometimes I would have to hand rewash my laundry sometimes because of what a bad job it did. It would leave like hair, lint from previous wash and dog hair like clumped up. And yeah. And it also didn't have a display, didn't have a sound alarm timer. So I have no idea how long the wash is going to run for. I have because it kind of auto senses the load. So it's not a set time. I don't know when it's going to be done. When it's done, I sometimes it's just like it's mid cycle. So it stops. I think it's done. I try to open the lid and it's locked still. I'm like, oh crap. Then I gotta go back. Yeah. So sometimes it runs for 20 minutes. Sometimes it runs for 35 minutes. I don't know. And it doesn't make a single sound when it's done. So let me know. So I'm glad got rid of that thing and got this new wash. And I just actually put my judogi in there last two practices. And my gi came out cleaner than it did before because, again, my white gis had like these black lint from previous loads like stuck onto it. So super happy about this.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when you put that up. So you put that up and then you put a thing about car Heimlich maneuver thing up afterwards. And I said, is that part of the manual? What part of the manual is it talking about? Like if your chest hit the steering wheel?
No, there was this Facebook group. There's this Facebook group I follow called Science Diagrams That Look Like Shit Posts. So it has all these like weird diagrams that are like from legit like scientific diagrams or textbooks and stuff, and they just look really funny, like memes or something. So I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, that did look really funny to me. So we've had an interesting week this week and stuff. You've been at well, if you're not from California, or I think it's most of the country, actually, most of the United States have been having this crazy winter storm. So yep. Here in California, you've had a lot of rain, a lot of snow, some hail. It snowed in Santa Monica, I believe, for a little while.
Yeah, it snowed where my parents were at, I think, actually.
Yeah, we've had this crazy snow. Because of that, we've had very small classes this week. So it's been a little sad to dojo, but we have some people competing this weekend at the Tai Chi tournament. And we're going to be competing there. We have like 7 people going to that tournament. So today's class is pretty small, but we're looking forward to that. You're going to go coach tomorrow, right?
I think I'll mostly watch since I think I heard Eric is going and he hasn't coached in a while because he hasn't been going to a tournament. So I want to give him a chance to do his thing, you know, and most of the people that are going to compete go to his intermediate class regularly. So I think it's better for him to coach them. I'll still be there if it's needed. But I'm just mostly going to support. I wasn't gonna go originally because, as I mentioned, I'm like so exhausted. Like I've been so tired. I'm still working overtime and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't gonna go. But then like over the last week, I think like 10 people asked me if I'm going. So I was just like, all right, I'll go. I'll make it work somehow. So, and I just told you how on Monday I'm going to have to wake up super early, like 4:30 in the morning. So
4:30. Ain't nothing.
Yeah.
I've had 3 early call times this week. I worked on, as most of y'all know, I work in film and television.
Yeah.
I do background, and this show I was doing background and stand-in this week on a TV show, and our call times was 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., and 6 a.m. So I was getting up at 4:30, 3 days this week. That was pretty crazy. Like, it sucks. Those days really suck. But
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind waking up that early to work. I just don't like waking up that early to drive. Like, you know what I'm saying? To drive all day and then I'm literally going to be driving all day. That's what I'm going to do. So, yeah, that is what it is. We'll make it work. And then I've been planning on those short videos. And still planning, because I said we're going to do it in either May or April or May. Right. So, yeah, so that's it'll give me more time to think about it, because I don't want to re-record it, because I did record. I was getting a lot of requests for ukemi videos, mostly due to what I've been typing up on Reddit and how I've been explaining to people, and people are like, "Oh, that makes so much sense." Like, I've never had someone teach me break falls like that before, and I was like, "Yeah, it'll make even more sense if I demonstrate it." But I try not to explain the whole thing in class because it takes up so much time. So it would make more sense for me to make this video. But I also don't want to rush it and re-record it. So I'm like writing down the outline and making drafts and revising them, and making sure I just can do it one time, so we don't have to re-record it.
I know people that they follow us on Instagram. I've had some people ask me about, like, why am I posting all these tournament posts? And because one of the things that I want to do is try to promote more judo tournaments in the LA area, and just people, like, come to California, go to tournaments. And I posted that one about the one that happened in Canada, which is happening in a very cool venue, in my opinion. They're happening at a mall, which I think is awesome. One way to promote judo is have it at the mall. But do people really go to the mall still? I don't know. But so yeah, I post, if you're in the LA area or think about coming to LA, I usually post not videos, I can't put in the videos, but the video part of our Instagram, just the videos, that's the daily things about what tournaments are going to come up. Like, I put this up at the Taishi tournament. I've been putting stuff up about the Golden State Open that's going to happen, which I plan on going and competing in. I already registered for it.
Oh, for Golden State? Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they put up the correct link now that's on Smooth Comp, and I registered like the very next day that I saw it up there.
Yeah.
So I'll be there. How about you? Coaching?
I haven't thought about it. I want to compete, but I haven't been training that much, like, due to my health. I already talked about it last episode. I'm going to get surgery soon, like 2 surgeries. So I don't know what I'm going to be like after I recover. Like, this has not been a good year. By the time I'm done with the surgery, I think, and then done with my travel, it'll be like May, June already. That's like half the year gone. Like, my New Year's resolution that I talked about in that episode is not going well right now. Like, staff and oh my gosh, like,
you have to do it all the last 2 months of the year. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
Like, it'll just be like last year, like, I rushed everything in December because things happen, but it is what it is. I'll just adjust my expectations. Yeah.
All right. So as we're recording this, today is the day of the UFC fight of It's Gone, right? Versus John Jones.
Gaines? I forgot.
Gons? I think it's Gone.
I forgot his name. Yeah. I haven't been watching UFC.
Yeah. So, but there was a highlight that already came out that a friend sent to you that you sent to me. And I said, don't send me spoilers, but you still sent it to me. You're like, no, it's not a spoiler.
Yeah. I try not to watch UFC anymore because, honestly, we talked about it in the past. I'd rather watch ONE FC if I have time to watch it because it's much more entertaining to me. I think on average, the fighters are better at ONE FC and the fights are more entertaining versus UFC has a higher skill cap at the high end, but then most of the fights in the regular cards are kind of crap. I'm trying not to spoil for you what happened in that fight, so I'm not. No.
So talk about what happened. So you sent me a video about, I don't know who the 2 girls were fighting were.
One of them was Penne was her name, and the other girl was Ricci. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ricci. Scotty sent it to us. So Scotty, as you know, is from the trivia episode we did at the end of the year. he loves watching UFC. So he sent it to me and it was like, man, this girl was like hyped up for being a judoka. And she landed this beautiful harai. So she did a harai goshi. And when Scotty first sent it to me, I thought it was, he said harai goshi and into an armbar. So I'm like, wow, I want to see that. Right. Mm-hmm. But then it was separate, two separate events. Harai goshi'd her. And then later on, she was on the ground and she was just kicking her. Like, the BJJ, how BJJ, that one person just butt scoots and refuses to get up. So Ricci was just kicking her and then eventually grabbed her legs and passed her guard and did a far side armbar, like turned a spinning armbar kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it was so textbook that I don't know what was going on. I was just like, how can you fall for that? It's like everything that a white belt would learn. So I'm just like, how do you fall for that? It looked like she either wasn't paying attention or I don't know. Like, again, like it didn't look very high level. Let's just say that. But then again, I'm not an MMA fighter, so who am I to say? It just is what it looks like to me. So.
Well, it goes into what our main discussion is. We're going to talk about a fight that happened in one championship this weekend or last weekend or 2 weekends ago. I don't remember weekends it was now. We're going to talk about a fight that happened there, but it's a whole thing about people underestimating judo. And even when the highlight video that you sent me of the woman doing the throw, as soon as you throw her, they're like, oh, she did that judo throw. And now she's working her jujitsu. It's like, no, she's working her newaza. All right. She's working her newaza. She's a judo player. We don't just throw in judo. And this is where I get like some heat from one of my BJJ friends. That's like, Juan, you just hate on BJJ. Don't you just hate a bit? No, I love BJJ. It's just, I hate when they only think that judo is throwing. And when anyone does a throw, it's just that judo throw.
It's just like repeating what you were saying too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they go into whatever newaza they do. And it's like, oh, her BJJ she's working on. And the thing that annoys me is that when it happened with Ronda Rousey, when Ronda would go to the ground, Olympic medalist, she'd go to the ground, her BJJ. Oh, her BJJ. Is she good enough with her BJJ? When Kayla Harrison, an Olympic gold medalist, all right, two-time Olympic gold medalist, all right, goes to ground, her jujitsu. And it's like, God, it's not just her BJJ. Like, we have newaza. We have beautiful groundwork that is direct and to the point, but people do not get that. Like I said before, we had so many students that come visit and are like, why do you guys do BJJ at the beginning? Why are you guys doing these BJJ drills? It's because we have newaza. This is newaza. We have it. So it's one of those things where I think people underestimate what they have. Like, you told me that the woman was like, she was a black belt in judo. I don't know if she was a national.
I don't know if she's black belt. It's just in her profile, it says her dad was a black belt and she was training judo since she was a kid. And then she moved to California and she started training BJJ and competing in it. So she is a purple belt, I think, in BJJ. But they hyped her up as a judoka, is what I heard. Mm-hmm.
So maybe she's just a first dan, only got her first.
Yeah. Also,
first degree
like,
black belt.
This is one thing I wanted to bring up is you'll see this discussion on the MMA sub all the time, which is why I stopped going to MMA sub for a long time, because people would argue about, again, back to the judokas arguing about the name of the throws. Like, most of the time when people do a throw that looks like this Haragoshi in UFC fights, it is actually an Oguruma or an Ashiguruma. It's not Haragoshi when they do this type of thing. I guess it goes into the topic we're going to talk about later, which is exposing your back, right? And other stuff. But because most people are trained to be like doing Uchimata instead or Koshiguruma or something, because they're afraid of getting their back taken. This is one of those instances where it's like, no, it's actually, she loaded her up on her hip and then sweeped her with the leg, like Haragoshi. So this is just my hypothesis or assumption. I'm not going to say it's like fact, but I feel like it's a sign that someone's trained in judo is that they, in nogi UFC fights, it would do a Haragoshi versus doing like an Oguruma or Ashiguruma, because they're not coming in from the outside without the hip connection and just like sticking the leg out and pulling them over. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I think a lot of they try doing that judo sweep throw or that judo in leg throw and stuff, or with Daniel Cormier always be like that wizard throw he'll call it all the time, which it's mostly time they're trying to do an Uchimata, then they mess up and they end up doing Haragoshi instead, Yep. So that was just interesting because it goes to the point of them, in my opinion, people underestimating her newaza because she's a judo player, or she's known as a judo player. So, which is then going to, is there anything else?
I was going to say, like, continuing on the thing about underestimating and what do you call it? Exposing the back. Like, if you look at the clip, I'm not going to link it, obviously, for copyright reasons, but if you look at the clip, you'll see she lands on top of her. Mm-hmm. She throws her, then lands on top of her. Chest first, chest to chest. So people always ragging on judo about, like, oh, when they do those throws, they expose the back and they turn all the way to, like, guarantee the ippon score. It's like, in the end, it's how you train. Yeah. If you're training for competition judo, then obviously you're going to train your body to roll through the throw to ensure they land on their back, right? But if you're not training competition judo, nobody's saying you can't train to land on top of the person. Obviously, you don't want to actually land on top. You want to kind of like post your arm a little bit to not destroy your partner so they can take multiple falls. Mm-hmm. But I was going over this with the white belts in our beginner class. I was like, keep in mind, what your goal is coming to judo, and train towards that goal. Like, if you're never going to compete and you're training for self-defense, obviously I'm not going to recommend you to train to roll through your throws. I would train for you to land on top of the person or train finishing the throws standing. So that it just goes to show, like, judo is what you make it out to be. It doesn't have to be IJF judo. So,
yeah. Well, to me, it's a very, like, if you have a good technique, good balance that you're supposed to as a good judo player, and not just using your body to just try to throw and muscle the person over, you should be landing on your feet. You should be able to throw a person and stay on your feet. That's good technique right there. And if you are a competition person, then you're going to do that whole overthrow where I throw, land on a person, or roll over them, or land on them and roll over to get the full ippon. Mm-hmm. And that's how you can kind of tell where, like, a good judo player can still throw and stand up straight, where a beginner will throw and kind of meanly, or not meanly, but they'll land on the person on accident. So it's a little thing where you can watch people and see what level they're at and how they throw. If someone throws and rolls over the person, that's very competition style right there, If the person's throwing and standing up straight or being on their toes and stuff right when they're done, but don't land and be like, oh, that person's just really good technique. So it's just things you could see. But so let's get back to let's talk about the one championship match. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, they had one championship on Prime Video again. And as we talked about with one championship before, like, I enjoy one championships. Anthony loves one championships. Mm-hmm. To me, it's a little blatantly how they favor some people during certain matches, and you can see who they're trying to push.
Oh yeah, clear. Yep.
This isn't pro wrestling, this is fighting. So the people that you want to win sometimes aren't going to always win, no matter how much you really want them to. But I'm not gonna say they rigged this, but it's kind of blatant. Like, you saw it. I'm like,
yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna get heat from it no matter what.
The funny thing is, there's untrained people who hasn't trained grappling before that actually think the judoka one. What's her name? Miura.
Yeah.
You want to give more context about the fight? Yeah.
All right. So I'll go into it now. You guys can't see me right now. So I have this huge board behind me and stuff. I got this graphics that I made, this beautiful stuff, but you're not going to see it all. No. So one championship, like we talked about before. So they do MMA fights as their main thing. They do boxing matches, kickboxing matches, Muay Thai matches.
We talked about the Muay Thai lawsuit thing.
Muay Thai, sparkling Muay Thai matches. And they're starting to do these grappling matches. Well, the thing with these grappling matches, that is the one thing that I hate and one thing that gets on my nerves. They'll say they're open grappling matches, but all the rules are always favored towards the BJJ people. Mm-hmm. The rules aren't favored towards judo players. They're not favored to catch wrestlers. They're not favored to sambo players. They're 90% of the time favored for the BJJ players.
I wouldn't even say it's favored to wrestlers either. That's another thing.
Oh yeah. Not even favored to wrestlers. So, and this is one thing that a lot of BJJ high level people, they will only fight if the rules favored them. They're not going to fight a judo guy where I can pin you, because that's going to favor the judo guy. That's going to favor the wrestler. That's going to favor the sambo guy. The only martial art it doesn't favor is BJJ, but that's another story within itself. Okay. So they're having these new open grappling matches. So they had a match between a woman that I think they're trying to push with Danielle Kelly.
Danielle Kelly. Yep.
And she's a black belt in BJJ. You told me that she was like a ring girl before or something.
Yeah, she used to be a ring girl until I think she was like watching people fight, and she's like, I could do that, and then she started training BJJ.
So she's pretty good, BJJ player. She's fought at all these other places doing the open grappling matches and stuff, but she's a black belt in BJJ, and they brought her to one championship. She had her first match with one of these Japanese one of these other BJJ girls that are just Japanese, got the draw. And then her last fight was against this Russian Sambo player that she won. And I can't remember how she won that match. Let me see if I wrote it down. I have it right there. She won by rear naked choke. Mm-hmm. She beat the Sambo player. So in this one, she's fighting, she's having her grappling match against, Ayaka Miura. Her nickname is Zombie because she's just a hard-nosed fighter. She's a black belt in judo. Okay, so one championship has these matches. They're 10 minutes, straight 10-minute rounds.
Do you know what dan rank she is? Because we talked about before how like a lot
they
of
have her. So one championship has her marked down as a third dan.
Okay, third dan is pretty high level. Like the most competitors in Japan are third dan. Because remember when we used to talk about how the Joe Rogan stuff will be like, oh, he's like a black belt in judo, and it's like a Japanese guy. We're like, okay, is he like a high school black belt? Like,
is he a first dan, second dan, third dan? How legit is he? Because as we all know, in Asia, it's hard. It's much easier to get your black belt in Asia. So the one championship has marked down as third dan. So they have their match. And immediately, Zombie, so I'm going to call her, Zombie wasn't able to do any throws because Kelly kept on pulling she was pulling guard and stuff, which technically in the new rule set, I think was said that it was not allowed to. So in the new rule set, you weren't supposed to be allowed to pull guard, I thought, but she did. And you weren't allowed to
she only had one legit, I guess like a no-gi to moenage attempt. Yeah. And we all know it's not going to work, like, especially with no-gi. And we all know it's not going to work, but at least she made it look like it might work. There was one attempt that was legit where she actually, I'll give her a pass and not call a guard pull. But every other attempt she did, she just like dove right in. Like there's no attempt. It's not a takedown attempt of any sort. It was just she just dove and grabbed the legs, basically. Yeah. So, when I say grab the legs, I don't even mean like a wrestling shoot. She was diving in back first and then trying to get like a waiter. What do you call it? Waiter hold, underhook on the leg. So clearly a guard pull. So
yeah. And the other thing was that Kelly also. She tried to butt scooting 3 times. She got told to stand up twice. I know she got told to stand up once. The second one, she got not a Shido, but she got a point deducted or something.
Really? No, I didn't see a point deducted.
Yeah, I think the point, whatever the thing deducted was that, or
it was a warning. You mean?
Warning, whatever it was that they gave her for her second one, and then her third one she did. They stopped immediately and told her to get back up. So at least they were kind of enforcing that. Okay.
I wouldn't call that enforcing. It'll be like enforcing eye pokes with John Jones.
That will be later tonight, people, or in the past, a week ago. So
I'm warning you. I'm really warning you. Seriously, don't do it again.
So Zombie is in her guard and stuff, keeps on passing her guard to get into Kesa Gatame and stuff. Neck cranking the hell out of her. She gets her arm, and she's doing that Kesa Gatame arm bar Kimura kind of position right there.
Ashikatame,
Ashikatame right there. And they called it, what'd they call it? They called it like the Aka lock or something. I guess that's what she named it or nicknamed her, because that's her move.
Yeah.
When Zombie before fought in one championships, one of her other wins is from this lock. And the girl during that match did something that the girl in this match did that I got really mad about. So when Zombie last time fought in Pride, fought in one championship.
Pride. How old is she?
I know. I'm old school. Getting this, the girl kept on trying to almost as eye gouge, almost gouge her eyes out, but she still got the lock in and subbed her. So in this match, she was getting
eye gouge here too.
Yes, she was. Another thing that was pissing me off. So basically, she has her down. She's in the Kesa Gatame arm lock position. She has her really tight. And the ref finally calls catch. Like after like 2 or 3 times of her like getting really, really stiff into the girl, the catch, the ref finally says catch, which means that it's a legit submission, or what they think is like finishing hold, like a finishing position, I guess they're saying. So she gets 1 catch. Every time Kelly would kind of scoot out and stuff. So a few times she would take her back, but then would stand back up, get back down. Basically, Zombie controlled, I would say, 2/3 of the match from Kesa Gatame.
I'd agree. Yep.
2/3 of the match. She would hold it from Kesa Gatame, neck cranking her. Kelly got scared so many times that
she also had more takedown attempts. Like she had a few sweeps that got her off balanced, but just didn't have the grip to finish it.
And there was times where Kelly would get very nervous. Like I can see when someone gets nervous and they're just grasping for straws. She was trying to do that chin hold that you do like in catch wrestling stuff and wrestling to pull someone over. But instead of grabbing the chin, she was literally raking the eyes.
Yep.
And it wasn't until finally the last 2 minutes or the last 1/3 of the match where Kelly finally got the back of Zombie and she's attempting these rear naked chokes. And instead of like trying to get her hands in, she is even more blatantly raking the eyes.
Yep.
The ref finally gives her one that tells her to stop it. And then she does it again. And these last 2 minutes that she's on her back, she attempts one really good rear naked choke. And the ref calls that a catch. So they're at 1 catch each. But in my opinion, Zombie has controlled 2/3 of the match.
I had no idea they were calling catch. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they're calling catches. And I was worried the ref was going to call a second catch because her second attempt on rear naked choke with like less than a minute in the match, I was like, he's going to call that a catch to let her win. He's going to call that a catch to make sure that she wins. He didn't, even though it wasn't good at rear naked choke. Like she kept on fighting it. So at the end of the match, they go the full 10 minutes. No one got to a good submission, not a good submission, but no one could finish the match with a submission. They both have 1 catch. But Zombie, in my opinion, has won 2/3 of the match with control from Kesa Gatame, the positions, the arm submissions and stuff from there. Kelly, I would give her the last 1/3 of the match, the last 2, maybe 3 minutes of the match, I would give to her because she took the back technically, even though she kept on squirming. And even Zombie finished on top, right? Like the last 2-3 seconds of the match. She turned in her guard in the rear naked choke, turned into her and was on top. The last 2 seconds of the match, which I thought, that sealed it for her. She had much more better submissions. She controlled most of the match. When Kelly got up, she looked deflated. She looked beat. She looked sad because she knew she lost that match.
I wouldn't go as far to say that's a huge assumption, but I get what you're saying and I agree.
I'm gonna get that heat. Give me that BJJ heat. I'm just calling it how I saw it. All right, as a judo player. As a judo player, catch wrestler, as I'm calling it. So Zombie get up, she's all happy and stuff. So they announce the winner of the match, and they say, "By winner, by you." You know how they say the weird stuff in one championship? They're all like drawn out stuff. Unanimous decision, Kelly. I'm just like, what? What do you mean Kelly won? And Zombie's just like, oh, good match, good job, whatever. I would have been pissed because she did not win that match. That is a blatant robbery, right?
This is why I was refusing to watch. I heard about it, but I was refusing to watch the fight because one, it's like, I don't have time. So it's actually takes effort for me to watch it.
It's only 10 minutes.
It's kind of like, you know, how I stopped watching IGF Judo live, especially because last episode I talked about how bad the reffing is. This is the same thing. Like I already know the rules are going to favor BJJ and also know the refs were probably more familiar with BJJ. But I ended up watching it because you were asking me about it, and then Scotty was asking me about it. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll watch it just so we can talk about it on the podcast. So I watched it, and it's exactly as you said, like coming from I'm not even talking about judoka, just like a grappler's perspective, or even layman, like for anyone who's like untrained. I think most people should, with the right mindset, consider Miura winning the judoka, Zombie, whatever. Yeah, she should have won. Like you said, she was had control most of the time. Not to mention the takedowns and then the eye rake and all that kind of BS. But I could also understand why she had won if you look at it from the BJJ from the rules perspective. Like she was on her back more, and had what in the eyes of the judges who see more BJJs, I guess, and more MMA. She had it looked like it was a closer submission attempt when you go for the rear naked choke. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask anyone who has gone under a Kesa gatame, anyone with a good Kesa gatame, especially when you allow spinal crush, not spinal, cranking the neck, cranking the spine.
Yeah.
So there's like what the Kesa crush, the diaphragm chokehold, which they call the Craig Jones choke or something, sub or whatever they call it now. The Boss Rutan crush, they call the other one. Like all those. Yeah. All those things that people do to you in the Kesa gatame position. I'm not even talking about the Ashigatame she was doing the whole time yet. Just consider like someone laying on top of you. Would you rather be under that for however 2/3 of the fight you said? Would you rather be on that, be under someone under that pressure for 2/3 of the fight, or would you rather have someone take your back and you're just holding an arm preventing them from choking you?
Yeah, what's easier on you?
Which one's easier on you? Like honestly, the whole thing's
like when people say,
if there's no strikes involved, I'll give people my back. I'll give people my back over being what they call cooked for like 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So one thing I always bring up when people talk about how Kesa gatame doesn't hurt is like, well, someone that doesn't know, or they're from a martial art where Kesa gatame isn't the best for, like, if you're from BJJ or something, because wrestlers know how much a scarf hold or head and arm Kesa gatame, how much that hurts. Judo players understand it. Sambo players understand this stuff. The only people that really don't understand it the most is BJJ, because it's not a good position for them. That's a terrible position. To them, that's always, you're giving up your back, And I always bring up, remember in, was it Polaris, where Josh Barnett fought Dean Lister?
I was thinking of Josh Barnett. I wasn't thinking of Craig Jones. I always mix them up.
Yeah. Remember when Josh Barnett fought Dean Lister?
Yep.
And he tapped him out with a head and arm crank, with a head crank.
Yep. That's what I'm talking about.
He just did a Kesa gatame, head and arm crank, what do you call it, in whatever style you come from. He did that and tapped out an amazing BJJ player right there. Just cranking on his head right there. He tapped from that. Do you know how painful that is? And for me, seeing that match, and you see how scared she's getting her neck cranked and stuff, how she's moving, and you're going to tell me, oh, that doesn't count. That's not a catch. No, that doesn't count for nothing.
Yep.
Because in a BJJ player's eyes, they see that, and it's like, oh no, they have her. She pretty much has her back. She's okay.
Yeah.
And what made me mad is just reading the replies, because it was like kind of 50-50. Some said that she won, some didn't say she won.
Yeah, and from a grappling perspective, it was not 50-50.
Yeah. This one person posted something that really pissed me off. And if they listen to us, it'd be amazing if they do. They posted, show me, and it was a BJJ person, show me you don't know BJJ by showing me you don't know BJJ. And they just left it like that. I was like, show me you don't know grappling by not telling me whatever. And I was like, look at this right here, because the rules favor you. You don't understand how much Kesa gatame can hurt, you know?
Yep. So, and again, so much pressure. I much rather have someone take my back and defend the armbar, the rear naked choke, than getting crushed, basically. And then this is before even putting into account like we were talking about, the Ashigatame attempts. So do those not count for submission attempts? Like how close she was to submission? She had her controlled. So, but I don't understand. So, but
they should have called catch much more times, I'd say. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I don't watch these kind of events, because I already got burned by ADCC. I got burned by what do you call it? Quintet. Same thing with Quintet, right?
Oh yeah, Quintet. Quintet was supposed to be open for all grappling. Then you look at the rules and they're like, these are all favoring BJJ guys. And even when they change the rules, it'd be like, oh no. So they have to stand up. They have to attempt to pull. They have to attempt taking someone down. The refs didn't enforce it. The refs never gave Shidos out. They never enforced anything.
Oh, they did give Shidos out, but there's no point. There's no points taken away when they kept doing it. They got a lot of warnings. So just to say it. They got a lot. It would be like, instead of having 3 Shidos, you got like 10, basically. So I don't watch that kind of stuff anymore, just because, like, again, I just feel like a waste of my time watching it.
Yeah. So for me, like, for me, if I ever did an open, quote unquote, open grappling match, I'll be like, there has to be pins allowed.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be somewhere I get points for pins, or like if I would take like if let me do a control
time. That's control pin. I don't think I'm not even asking for points for pins. All I'm asking for is, like you said, control time, and that would make me watch it maybe. But what would be best is like takedowns, like just score takedowns. Like why, if takedowns don't score anything, why would I risk like getting being vulnerable during a takedown? Because we all know when you're attacked, like just like when you throw a punch, you're vulnerable, right? There's risk involved. Why would I take the risk for a takedown if there's no points involved, So
yeah, so that was just our opinion on this match that happened. I'm not really impressed with the One Championships grappling series, their grappling events that they've been, these little matches they've been putting on. Like I said, the rules are really favorite to BJJ. That's what's popular in the world right now. That's what everybody likes. That's what's hot in the streets, especially in MMA. So
yeah, I wouldn't call it submission grappling. Just call it a BJJ tournament.
Just call them BJJ matches. Yeah, yep. Just call it for what it is. Don't lie. And with that leads into our conversation that we were going to have last time. This week. So
to summarize what I think, if it was a submission, if it was a grappling match, Danielle Kelly lost. Definitely not even close. Like it wasn't like a totally destroyed, but it wasn't like a close match. Like what most people are saying, that it could have went either way. But if you're talking about a BJJ match, like if you called it a BJJ match, then yeah, I can see how she'd won. Right. Yeah. So
when I watched the match, I thought Zombie won. I thought she won, if not a draw. I was like, oh, well, she blatantly lost, so they'll probably call it a draw, I think. They'll call it a draw because they want her to win. And they give her to win. I was just like, what? But it is what it is. So like I said, we're going to go into our next conversation. I don't want to sound too bitter or mad about this. So we're going to talk about the thing about, we're called it judo myths, but it's more about
misconceptions
about judo or certain judo techniques and things.
Yeah.
So the one we want to talk about first was when you throw somebody, I always get this from the BJJ guys. Well, what if I take his back from there? Well, I'll just jump on his back if he tries to throw me.
We kind of already touched that topic. So, but we can go deep. I want to go talk more about it and also recap what we talked in previous episodes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when people say that, I always say, have you ever been thrown on concrete? Have you ever landed on concrete or hard grass or even just on a hard mat? Because there was one long time ago. I threw a guy that was in my MMA gym, and he said he dislocated his clavicle, but I'm not sure if he actually do that. I think he broke his clavicle when I threw him.
You can't dislocate it.
Yeah, because he jumped on me when I tried to throw him, and I just landed on him, and he was like, oh, because we were using this place was terrible. Yeah. We had these small puzzle mats, and I shouldn't have thrown them. I really shouldn't, but I had to do it. But this whole thing of BJJ people or other martial arts and stuff will think that, if he comes in for the throw, ogoshi, ippon nagi and stuff, I'll just jump on his back. And it's true. There's certain throws where if I do come in, like ippon nagi or koshiguruma, where it is very easy to take my back. But if I do a throw like uchimata or harayagoshi or hanagoshi and stuff, and I throw you hard on concrete, asphalt, even grass, you're going to get the wind knocked out of you, even if you hold me.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. Because even if you hold me, you're going to have all of your weight hitting the ground with my weight on top of you plus force. Now, what people get this misconception is that they see us judo players that are built for this, that we're used to getting slammed on the mat. We're used to fighting hard on mats, that our bodies just acclimated to it, go to tournaments or go to practice, slam, slam, slam. We get up and do it again. What they don't understand is that we have special tatami mats. And if you go to a big school or big dojo, they might even have springs like we have at our dojo. We have foam cushions, foam mats, not foam, what are those, foam blocks underneath that creates a subfloor that's almost like,
springs, almost like springs. Yeah.
No, but someone described it almost like a gymnastics floor almost.
Oh, gymnastic floor. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it softens the blow. And even on these mats, like after a long day of practice, you take in like 50 throws or something or more, we get beat up. But you see these big throws at tournaments and it's like one big throw, two big throws, three big throws. You're not going to take a whole lot. You're going to be okay. But if you're not used to that and you're getting slammed on, again, concrete, hardwood, asphalt, even grass, that doesn't spring. There's no cushion there. And my problem, this goes back to when I fought MMA, and I fought MMA, had 10 matches and stuff. I had most of my matches after I was doing judo. The MMA mat isn't built for judo players.
No, it's not. It's not.
The MMA is built to protect the people. So if people get knocked out, with the big problem they used to have in boxing is that when boxing, it was not the knockout that hurt the person.
It was the head hitting the mat.
It was the head hitting the mat. That's what it was. Just hitting the plywood or the not 2x4s, but the planks underneath there. That was just slamming the head on there. So when it got to MMA, became popular. Okay, we got to put mats down here. Okay, we got to put some sort of like wrestling mats or tatamis or something there to protect the fighters. And some of these mats that I fought on, they're super cushy, so cushy. My foot would sink in them sometimes. They're so cushy. So I was thinking, man, if I throw a guy on this, yeah, it's going to hurt him, but it's not going to knock him out. Yep. So I think it's where it gets the misconception in MMA even where, oh, judo throws don't work because look, that guy threw him and he was fine. Well, yeah, he's fighting on an MMA mat.
Yep.
He's being protected right here. Even wrestlers do a good double on a guy. Unless I get a shoulder in on him, it's not do the normal damage it would even on a wrestling, on a normal wrestling mat.
Yep.
So this is one of those misconceptions of, oh, well, we see judo players get up from throws. I see MMA guys get up from throws. So judo doesn't work. It's like, no, it does work. And I understand the whole thing of, oh, just jump on his back. You jump on my back. Imagine all this force hitting you and landing on you.
Yep. That's one of the scariest things it's one of the reasons why I refuse to throw people or at least refuse to throw them seriously in BJJ is when I first started it, one of the people I tried to throw held on to me in the air. So I luckily we had a huge weight difference. So I was strong enough to hold them up in the air. But if it was someone my weight, I'm going to land on top of them. Like if you hold me up in the air, I'm landing on top of you. I'm not going to break or fall with my body. So I don't trust BJJ people taking falls. And if you follow my Instagram, I shared a post on Grappler's Guide Instagram where they have this like hot takes kind of thing. Like a lot of BJJ social media platforms have been doing this recently where they anonymously accept like hot takes. And one of the ones was like learning to break falls is useless because high level people don't break fall. And it's like such an ignorant statement, I think. Because I think if you think break falls are simply slapping the mat and tucking your chin, then yeah, I can see that because high level people don't really slap the mat, right? But there's so many other parts of break fall, like one, tucking your chin, two, breathing, like not holding your breath, and also not holding people. Like there's all these little intricacies into it about how to fall and not posting your hand out, even if you don't slap. So, the break fall is learning. I really don't like the term break fall, the translation, because for ukemi, because it implies you're doing something to, like you're slapping the mat to break or disperse the force. You have to disperse the force. So people have this conceptions like, oh, break fall is just slapping the mat. But no, the word ukemi literally means receiving body or receiving the technique, basically, right? So you're learning how to receive it. That's a better translation, I think, versus just using the word break fall. You kind of have this image in your mind that you're dispersing something by slap, and usually people associate it with slapping. So yeah, it's not just about slapping, but just like at the MMA fight we just talked about, you can throw someone, land right on top of them, right? When I talked about my trip last time and how I went to visit a BJJ club, everyone wanted me to throw them. But when I threw them and I refused to land on top of them and I roll through to be nice, they just like take my back and start cranking my face, you know? Yeah. So, but then if I land on top of them, they'll call me an asshole. So
Exactly. So that's one of those big misconceptions about judo players. Like we are built for this. We get used to it. Your body gets toughened to it. That's why it's one of the terrible things that it doesn't look effective to outsiders because they see high level Olympic national players that they watch highlight videos and you see us throw the crap out of each other. And then we just stand back up or they come watch a class.
Or they roll through like we talked about. Yeah. And you don't have to roll through.
Yeah. Or they just stand up. They throw the person, they stay standing with the person And it's like, okay, it's their force hitting the mat and stuff, but they're just used to it. They're not having no one land on them. And especially landing on a tatami, landing on a nice mat. That's the thing people don't understand, I think, the most. Tatami mats are the best. I'm just going to say judo tatami mats are the best. Okay. Then wrestling mats, in my opinion. Okay. Because there's some crazy stuff we used to do in wrestling. I think now that I'm older, I'm like, how did we do that? Not break our necks? Some of the suplexes and stuff we used to do to each other. And I'm like, how did we not break our necks when we were kids doing?
That's why you don't see adult wrestling programs as often, right? So.
Yeah, because we have these foam mats or these foam rubber mats. The foam rubber ones are just like, how did I not twist my ankle more wrestling on these foam rubber mats? But those are the best ones, like some of the more fun ones and stuff. Then BJJ mats, because they're kind of just thinner judo mats, but they're usually just directly on plywood or hardwood or whatever people have on the floor there, so there's no cushion. And the worst, like I said, was where I was training this one BJJ, not the BJJ, one MMA place I was training at, are those karate puzzle mats that are meant there just to protect you in case you fall. They're not meant for you to throw people on them. They're just there to protect you in case you fall, so you don't break your knee or your back.
Sometimes I see like karate people doing sukui nage on hardwood floor. I'm just like, man, I don't know how they do that. Like,
because they don't do it a lot.
They don't do it a lot. That's the thing. So same thing with rolling through the throws. Like we do that because so we can practice the throw like 100 times. Like imagine landing on top of your partner 100 times. Like it's not going to work. You're going to run out of training partners really fast. So
yeah. So if you've ever been really like very non-judo player, you're not used to this kind of stuff, non-judo, non-wrestler and stuff, and you're not used to taking these falls, and you think it's tough on these mats, just imagine on concrete. Just imagine on hardwood floor. How it's going to hurt. And the idea of, I'll just jump on their back and stop them and take the hit is mind blowing to me when I see people say that.
Yeah. In the end, it depends on the rule sets, right? What the rule set determines what happens. Like, for example, some throws are illegal in BJJ because they call them slams. And then whether you get points for takedown. So you got to weigh the risks versus reward kind of thing. So, I mean, that's a different discussion. If you're arguing about that, like whether it's good for a certain sport, then you have to look at the rules. But when you say like the throws aren't effective because you expose your back, that's like stupid. So or that you can take the fall and just like take their back or jump on them. Yeah. And like I said, there are some throws that if I do an ippon sonagi, I'm definitely giving someone my back. Okay, like I know if I do an ippon sonagi, the person can jump on my back. But I can also do a front flip and land on top of them. There's risk reward when you do certain things. So that's kind of what we're getting into now, right? About doing turn throws, exposing the back. Yeah. So I think the problem is when most people, even within the judo community, honestly, in my experience in American judo community, not a lot of people are good with turn throws. Let's just say that compared to people I've seen abroad. Most of the time you see osotogaris, sacrifice throws, sumigaishi, uranages, right? Like that's usually what you see. Not many people do like big turn throws unless you're on the national team and stuff. So imagine like your recreational judokas don't usually do these big turn throws, then I might get some people who disagree with it, but that's anecdotally, that's what I see when I visit clubs. But now these BJJ guys that train judo for like once a week or a couple of times, now they try these takedowns because they watched the YouTube video and they turn and they don't have the kazushi, they don't have the posture broken, they don't have the right grips, they don't have the right movement, and they're like, oh, I just tried to do a seonage, but I got my back taken. So it's like, oh, it doesn't work, So it would be like, what's a good example comparison? It would be like if you did like spider guard and then someone took your ankle and then sat down and like ankle locked you. Then does that mean spider guard is useless? Like, no, you just didn't control the person properly, right? So it just blows my mind that people think this. It's like, yeah, if you're not good at turn throws, then maybe turning your back is a bad idea, right? But if you're good at turn throws, it's super effective and hard. It's a hard throw, and you can launch people and knock them out pretty hard.
And by turn throws, it's what we're talking about, like kind of throws where you directly give someone your back. And what I mean, so to think about it, is like if I do iposonage, that's the shoulder throw. Most other martial arts call it that, even though judo, we do it differently. But if I'm doing a shoulder throw and I'm not breaking their balance forward, this is what most people do. They first learn iposonage. They'll grab the arm, step into the person, and try to lift them from right there. Like, no, you have to break their balance. You have to pull them towards you. People don't understand that.
Yep.
When people first learn Murota Seonagi, same thing. That's a 2-arm version. I grab the gi and I wrap myself into them, and they just grab my back. They just latch onto my back from right there. I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. They have me right here. It's like, no, because you didn't break their balance. That's one of the first things you tell them in judo when they first doing throws. You have to break their balance. You have to pull them onto the balls of their feet. You have to pull them towards you. Yep. You know?
Yeah. So another example I like to use would be like osotogari, right? Like today in the beginner's class, I talked about counters to osotogari. If you come in with a poor entry or not breaking their posture first or kuzushi, then the other person will just like turn and counter you right away because you're on one foot and they're on two, you know?
Yeah.
So it's the same. Does that mean osotogari is useless because you're getting countered? No, it's like you did it wrong, right? Yeah, so don't do it until you do it right.
You didn't break the balance. You didn't pull them onto one leg. You didn't push them over.
Yeah. People just go ahead.
No, it's a whole thing. Like, it is impossible unless you have super brute strength to lift a person that are on their balls. They're on their feet, weight distributed. It is almost impossible to throw someone from right there. With any strength. It's just God, I used to know this mathematical thing that I learned a long time ago about how like the force and the pull and leverage, all the stuff goes into throwing somebody. What if someone's just think of a pole or a column, just a big rock right there? How are you going to throw that rock if it's right there? You can't just do it brute force. You have to pull it off balance to roll it past you.
Yep. So, I kind of lost my train of thought, but so it's one thing to say like we're talking about how turn throws exposing your back is a false assumption, basically, because you can say that about any technique. Now, what I think people are trying to say is that for my rule set, whatever you're training, BJJ or MMA or whatever, for my rule set, Seoi Nage, Haragoshi, all that stuff is really hard to learn. So I have to invest a lot of time to become decent in that one throw, and it's not worth my time because the risk factor and the time investment involved in learning, like say single and double legs, is lower. So obviously the other risk would be getting kneed in the face, but for people, it's like, okay, I don't have to risk as much, and the success rate's like a little higher because given the time investment I need. If I told someone it's going to take years of practice for you to get decent at like these big turn throws, people are going to just like scuff at it for whatever they're trying to learn, right? That's not judo, like to apply it. Especially if they have to show up to judo all the time and not versus I go to the BJJ club. Most people only train double single legs like a few times a week or a month or something. They don't focus too much on it, and it works. So I think that's a huge misconception. Like I think that's a legitimate argument, and I agree with it, is that, okay, turn throws are not worth my time investment to get good at. Yes, but just saying the whole turn throws are useless in BJJ because I'll take your back is like completely wrong.
Yeah, it's the old saying, judo's a marathon, not a sprint. But the fact is that every martial art, if you want to get good at it, is a marathon, not a sprint. It's just it's super easy to teach someone an armbar. It is super easy to teach someone rear naked choke. It is not that easy to teach someone osotogari, iponsoonagi, uchimata, that every BJJ guy I meet pretty much wants me to teach them uchimata. I'm like, can you do a basic hogoshi at least for the base of it? The next throw that I want to talk about, and it's giving your back, but it's a throw that I sometimes get in arguments with my BJJ friends about this, is Kouchi Makikomi.
Yep.
Kouchi Makikomi, when I teach it or when I show it to my BJJ friends, or even I catch wrestling when I do it there sometimes, I get people always saying, oh, well, I'll just take your back from there. I'll just take your back. Like as soon as you go down right here, I'll just do this to you, Juan, and turn you over and take your back. And then I'll do it to them. And they don't look like this is, again, a black belt, a third degree black belt doing it to them. They don't expect the force I'm coming in with. They don't expect my hand doing the back fist motion, pushing their head to the mat. And I'm not trying to concuss you, but it can't happen. They don't expect that. What they see, though, is they'll see it in practice or uchikomis, people just practicing, going light and stuff, attempting it and be like, oh, well, I'll just turn him over here. Or I'll just take his back there. And it's one of the things where people will see the misconception of they see the practice version and think, oh, I'll just do this. They expect me to come in or people to come in the practice way and not the hardcore tournament full-on way.
Bridgetown Judo, the place I visited in Portland, also Sasaki Shintaro recently uploaded the same clip. They both have been doing this thing where they do Kouchi Makikomi and they roll through their shoulder and end up in a north-south position and then do a paper cutter choke from there. So that's an option too. Like there's ways around it, but again, in judo, we just don't train like that, right? So again, would I do it personally? No, but for BJJ, I wouldn't do it. But that's because I don't want to train like that. But you could make it work. Just like you said, you still control. You can roll through. You can control the person with the grip, so you can't take your back. So it's just you got to modify your training.
And one of the ways I teach it when I do Kouchi Makikomi is that when I first teach it, I'm just teaching you how to take it down. You know, when I teach it to orange belts and yellow belts, I'm just teaching you to take a person down. It's when you start getting to green belt or when you start getting it, then I teach okay, as soon as you take them down here, you don't wait. You don't wait and stay here and see what happens. Look at the ref. Is that Ippon, Wazari, whatever. As soon as you come down here, you push that leg in between your two legs down and go straight into Yokosho Gatame. Or if you're mean, which I don't teach that much anymore, this one, because it hurts people, is do the whole roll through. Do like that John Wick style where I call in Kouchi Makikomi, roll over your body and face to make sure I get the Ippon and go into a north-south position. You totally do that. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Kesa Gatame giving up the back? Since it's still same aligned with So another thing is like never ever do Kesa Gatame the judo way around the Hon Kesa Gatame, the true Kesa Gatame, what they call. Because if the head slips out, then I will take your back. Thankfully, there's a growing movement of people starting to ignore that advice. I still get told that very often at my club, and I've only given out my back like maybe a few times. Like it happens. I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen. It happens, but it's not like, oh, if you use this hold, then they're gonna take your back. Like, I think you can say that about anything. Like if you lose it, like even for the regular Kazura Kesa Gatame, which is like what do you call it in BJJ? I don't even know what they call it. The one where to do the underhook, basically. Yeah. If you lose the underhook, they're going to take your back. Like it's just the same thing, right?
It's just a weird thing. It's just a weird thing that we talked about with the match earlier is that how can wrestling, sambo, judo, catch wrestling all be wrong, but BJJ, the only one saying it's wrong, be right? How can all these other grappling styles, but I do admit these grappling styles all have pins. They all do have pins and positional and control position right there. How can all these other popular martial arts, grappling martial arts, all be wrong, but BJJ, the only one right there, be right?
So this is why I think, right? I think what happened is like back to what we said. It's based on the rules, right? Yeah. You're going to train to your rules. Like if your sport that you're training has a pin winning condition, then you're going to focus your time training that pin and how to keep them on their back the whole time and crush them there. But if your sport doesn't have that winning condition, aka BJJ, then you can afford to just wait there until the person has to do something to try and get a submission, like a transition of some sort. And that's going to open up the vulnerability for you to take the guy's back, basically. So once people see that, they're going to train that position less. And it's just kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you train that position less with the less intent on pinning them, crushing them, cooking them, whatever you want to call it, then you're going to see, if you train without that intent, it would basically you're going to have a shitty Kesa gatame, and then people take your back, then you're going to be like, oh, it happened. Yeah. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Sucks. Whenever I do it, I get my back taken. But like you don't work on it.
Yeah, like I said, there's been increasing amount of people that are starting to find out that's not true, which is happy to hear that. Like the defensive BJJ guy, Preet Mickelson, like he's one of them. What was it? Josh Barnett, you said was one of them?
Yeah, Josh Barnett.
And then there's what's his name? Chris Paynes, and there's another guy I was thinking of. Sonny Brown. Like if you've never seen Sonny Brown's like Kesa gatame system video, go watch it. It's great. I really recommend it. Get it on sale though. Don't get it at full price.
You cheap bastard.
Yeah, because it's honestly stuff that you could learn in judo, honestly. But if you don't have access to judo, I understand, then that's a pretty good
if you don't have access to judo, wrestling, sambo, or catch, yeah.
On a side note, the only instructional I would recommend paying full price for is Jimmy Pedro's gripping, like grip like a champion. That's the only thing I think is like worth the money. It's like gold. So,
you'll love to hear that.
Yeah, so that's Kesa gatame. People just need to train it better. Just like I think you told me that new guy that signed up from the other school, he's a BJJ black belt.
Yeah, one of our newer members. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was teaching Kesa gatame, and I talked about how you want to keep the guys back flat on the mat. And he told I should ask him why, because he told me that, oh, actually, I prefer the guy to not have his back flat on the mat. I didn't ask him why, but I'm assuming it's to open up to other submissions or something like that, or take his back. But if I'm trying to pin the guy and crush him, I want his back flat on the mat. I just could not wrap my head around it. So it's, again, different training for the sport, right? So
yeah, we train judo for judo. You train BJJ for BJJ. You train catch for catch. That's just how it is. We train to the wrestling. We train to the, like we said, we train to the move set. We train to the rule set of the style that we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I do the cooking thing sometimes in training, but I try not to stay there too long because one, I'm not getting better. I'm just doing, at that point, I'm just doing judo, right, and BJJ. If I'm just crushing them in Kesa gatame, yeah, and I want to train my transitions, so I would like stay there for a few seconds until they stop like jerking around, like spazzing around. Then I'll try transition to something else, and that's usually when they escape my Kesa gatame or take my back or something. Is when I try to transition to something else. But yeah, so that's my take on the Kesa gatame back take.
Yeah. And I noticed some people, like we were saying with the match before, it can look like to someone else that's untrained sometimes or from another moveset. It looks like the other person, well, it looks like they want to have their back. It looks like they almost have their back. No, it looks like they're scrambling because their neck's being cranked and their arms being pulled out of their socket. That's what's happening. It's just one of the things, like go to a wrestling gym, or a judo club or somewhere else and ask them to put you in a good Kesa gatame. Not just let me feel Kesa gatame, put me in a good Kesa gatame. Let me feel what it actually feels like.
I mean, just like Eric from our dojo, he's like what, 155 pounds. I'm like, right now I lost weight from the staph infection, but I was like 230, 220, 225, something like that. He'll make me tap from the pressure. Like that's from the Kesa gatame. It's ridiculous. Like if you do it right, it's crazy. Yeah.
So don't sleep on the Kesa gatame. Don't sleep on the head and arm. I know some people want to, but don't sleep on it. All right.
And yeah, especially BJJ. I don't know why they're allowed to do the spinal cranks, diaphragm chokes, and stuff. So it's like such a great position that I don't know why they're dismissing it off the bat, because you can't do those in judo. So.
No, you're not supposed to, but you still do.
Yeah, but you do it not as a submission, but to make them suffer, so you can pin them easier.
That's get that 20 seconds.
You don't want to make it too obvious you're doing it and get disqualified.
Yeah, so. The worst 20 seconds of your life right there. All right. So what's another misconception?
So the only other one I want to talk about is leg grabs. I didn't like earlier in the year. I want to say like last year even. I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't feel like I had enough experience to talk about it. But now that I've been training jiu-jitsu for longer, long enough, like it's been like what, 4 years now, 5 years. And I've been I've been going to no-gi classes a little bit. I have a little bit of experience doing no-gi. I feel like I have the experience to actually talk about, have an educated opinion about it, right? Mm-hmm. I think the general misconception is like judokas are super weak to leg grabs. Yeah. I would say that's true if you, like me at the time, like just trained at some place that never ever dealt with leg grabs. But if you're like me and went out and searched for places that will try to grab your legs, then it's not that high of a learning curve to stop your typical BJJ single leg and double leg. Like your average recreational, maybe not a black belt, because I've gotten some black belt. I've won against some black belts that actually had really good single and double legs. And wrestlers, right? There's that white belt wrestler that will double leg blast you. But in general, like people with the same amount of experience as me, white belt, blue belts, purple belts, that try to do single and double legs with me, it took me like maybe like 6 months to get used to it. In the gi, let me clarify. In the gi, one, it's real. I think the what do you call it? The learning curve of learning how to sprawl is easier than learning a good single and double. Would you agree with me? That's my observation. Yeah. Since you're a wrestler, I'm asking you right now.
Yeah, I think learning a good sprawl is way easier than learning a good double. Yeah, and I'm gonna say this: if you never wrestled in your life and you want to go into like MMA or BJJ or any of those other martial arts that you never grappled before and you have to learn takedown, learn a single leg first. I would say learn a single into a double, because all these players are going to teach you a double leg first, and a double leg, unless you're really good, is very hard to get good at it.
Yeah,
It's almost like in my opinion, it's kind of like the judo. Again, it goes to Uchimata. It's kind of like Uchimata. Mm-hmm. It's this big, beautiful throw that everyone wants to do, but but it takes time to learn how to do it properly, correctly. Yeah. And it's the same with a double. If you want to learn it, to take time.
Yeah. I don't even bother sprawling anymore for single legs because most of the time I'll just take the fall, because I don't, there's not enough. It's been getting really crowded in my club. So yeah, I just take the fall. I don't want them to drive me into, which has happened. There's a white belt I went against that didn't care who was near us, and he drove me on top of someone else. But nice. Also other times they would just grab my leg, and then that's, like I said, most people with like 4 to 5 years experience don't have a great single or double leg. They'll just grab my leg, and I just like Sumigaishi or Uchimata them.
Of course.
So that's why I don't really sprawl for singles. But doubles, I was getting caught with it a lot of times early on, and it was really easy for me to figure out over time how to sprawl properly, especially just like YouTubing how to do it. Yeah. I got it in like 6 months, and I haven't really been double like blasted by someone that wasn't a black belt or a wrestler. So I think that's one. It's just people over exaggerate. I was like, oh, judo they don't touch legs. You're vulnerable. Like it's your kryptonite. It's getting touched in the legs. It's like, I think that's an over exaggeration.
People always try to look for the weakness in your martial art or your sport. Mm-hmm. Like how we talk about BJJ sometimes, they don't have good stand-up. They don't have great stand-up. So their weakness to us is always like how to get to the ground, pulling guard. And to us, people always look at us about like, oh, judo can't grab legs anymore. And a lot of people think that we don't have leg techniques. They don't understand we have single legs, we have double legs, we have leg grabs and stuff. We have them. It depends on your gym if they teach you it or not, you know? Yep. And so they see that and they're like, oh, well, if I want a judo guy, I'll just double him. I'll just do this to him. I'll do that to him. Never, if you go against a judo player, and I went back, we'll tell the story again. I went back to catch a few weeks ago because I had some time off from work. So I went there, and all these guys that are there, majority of them are from BJJ. Some of them are just catch guys. So they already don't have the best takedowns already. Some of them have good ones for how long they've been doing it. And they were try to do single legs on me or double legs. When they do single leg on me, I would just sprawl out and pick them back up and throw them with the throw. Rice bag throw them. That's another thing. That's another good throw that people always sleep on that. And so you learn a good rice bag throw, someone does a power double on you, just throw them over you and you land on top. You're in top position. You're Tadashi Okatami already. It's a great throw to learn. I'm gonna show that 1 week in class. Yeah. Or when people do the bad single, Uchimata right there. People always forget about that. Oh, I'm gonna do this bad single on the guy, try to get around him. Oh, nice Uchimata, the guy's in the air.
I've been showing some people in my club that Uchimata, and a lot of them are like saying it doesn't work. But I'm like, you're doing the Uchimata again. You're doing the Uchimata wrong.
Yeah,
basically.
You're not a judo player. You don't know it. You can't see it once.
They focus so much on the kicking the leg up into the inner thigh. They miss the other support legs position. They miss what to do with the hands, which is arguably more important than the leg that's being kicked up, in my opinion. So, so again, train to the sport, but, so for now, I'm mostly talking about the gi, right? Where I think it kind of comes true is when I kind of started going to no gi class, I instinctively try to grab the belt and the top of the gi to push them down. Because most of the time I don't even have to sprawl. Like I would just grab the gi or the belt and push them down, and that stuffs their shooting attempt. They'll have to be really freaking fast for me to not get the grip in time to stuff them. Right. So I think it kind of changes when you don't have the gi anymore. It's like, yes, I'm actually more vulnerable to leg grabs now because I haven't been training without the gi much. So I rely more on the sprawl basically at that point because I don't have the belt grip. I don't have the over the top gi grab, which is why you'll see wrestlers like bent over a lot, right? Because there's no really like over the neck or over the back grip to give up. You get the collar tie, right? But then you can just like slap the hand away or dodge it because there's really no grip there. It's safer. And also, again, there's unlike judo, is not like detrimental to land on your back that way. So people will like do that bent over posture, or they can even sit down or put a hand down or something. There's no joint locks in wrestling. So that's for the no-gi, but the other part is also people over like to miss grip fighting. Like judokas nowadays are really good at grip fighting, especially with the gi, right? Hand fighting, grip fighting. So I can stop most single and double legs from happening just by like totally shutting down the other person's grips, so they can't even shoot in the first place. One thing that a lot of judokas do nowadays is they take the high collar grip, what you call the oguri grip, and that opens you up to single legs because now your elbow, the space between your elbow and your knee and your side of your body is open, so that will open you up. So when I go to BJJ, I don't take that over the head grip unless I'm throwing anymore. I don't stay there because I noticed throughout that like the 4 years, like I said, I was training. Whenever I take that over the head grip, just like in judo, and try to smash the guy down to break his posture for a throw, if I stay there too long, people will shoot in for a double or a single. So I'm like, okay, I need to get the regular traditional judo grip, you know what I'm talking about, like on the lapel. Yeah. Then with that lowered, I can use my elbow to block the entry. It works surprisingly well. So sometimes I'll even go double sleeve or get a Russian tie. So, or Georgian grip, that all stops the double and single legs. Well, maybe not the Georgian grip, but yeah, you get what I mean.
No, I figure. I understand. So yeah, there's just these misconceptions about things like that. You know, judo players, because we don't do leg techniques, or at least they see your dojo doesn't do it, they think that you're susceptible to it. And some are. Like I've had people visit. We had a guy from Japan visit right before the pandemic, and one day I decided in one class, we're like, hey, for fun, let's do Morotogaris and stuff. Let's do this. I'm gonna allow leg grabs. And he was just like, because he didn't know anything about leg techniques. Like he was one that's like, he knew nothing. And people were just people that were going up against him were just Morotogaring the crap out of him. And I felt so bad. I was like, oh, should you know something about the legs?
So I landed my first leg grab attack 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? Or last week. And it started when I swapped my stance. I lowered my stance a bit, and I was able to do an ankle pick because I lowered my stance. My hand reaching the ankle was much faster than if I had a judo stance, like straight up, and then reaching down. Because it's like the timing is like so long that people are, especially because I'm tall, people can just step away. But when I lowered my stance and I just like grabbed the leg, it just it was like bam. So
I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna show you something of the dojo then one day to help you out with that. So if they have the gi, so you have the collar grab with their gi, snap that collar down at the same time you lower your stance.
Yep.
So you can snap the collar down, get the ankle pick, and then pick that ankle up and push back with your fist at the same time.
That's why I did.
To take him down.
Actually, that's why I did it.
Yeah, so, that's how you do it. That's how you do it in judo style right there to get the ankle pick. You gotta grab that collar and snap it down with you. So you're crunching them down, bringing them down to the mat. Grab that ankle and just pull that lever up as you push the other level down.
Yep. So to summarize, leg grab, being vulnerable, over exaggerated, not being able to do leg grabs, not exaggerated because we haven't been training it. So like most people haven't been training it.
Yeah. Depends on your dojo. And if you're a white belt, your dojo is not teaching you how to do leg grabs. Your dojo is not teaching you how to do leg grabs until you're green, blue, most likely even brown belt. I do also think though, like people are like, well, they might listen to this and be like, oh, I'll just start learning how to sprawl and start learning how to do the stuff that I mentioned. But no, you need some people that have been taught single and double legs and do them half decent to try it on you for you to pressure test it. You can't just have like two guys who've never done leg grabs or your sensei who only done leg grabs in kata. And you know, like you can't have them like pressure test that way, right? Yeah. So go out there, cross train. Trust me, you got a wrestler in your dojo. You got at least one wrestler in your dojo. Trust me.
Yeah,
and
if you have a wrestler, ask the wrestler. Honestly,
yeah.
Just make sure. My experiences with wrestlers is that there's 0 or to 100. They don't have in between. So just be careful. So
trust me. Every judo dojo has at least one wrestler. You might not know it, but trust me, there's one in your dojo. All right, that guy that's really arm strong and stuff. That guy's a wrestler.
This is how I know the guys are wrestlers. As I usually will wait till they gas out because they're holding on to. They're so like uptight the whole time, but they never gas out. Like they never gas out. I'm just like, oh, this guy's a wrestler. So,
all right. So, is there anything else you want to talk about? Some misconceptions?
No, I think that covers most of it. Unless people want to bring up some more other ones that they want us to shoot down. So,
we'll not shoot it down. We'll just discuss why and what the reasons are about it. We're not just shooting stuff down.
We're not saying judo's perfect. Like I just said, like double legs and like leg grabs. We are basically it's dying out. It is. But people over exaggerate saying like, well, now judo's useless because you can't defend against leg grabs. Like what? Like,
and Roman and Greco-Roman wrestling is useless because you can't do leg grabs there either. Haha, people. Yeah. Which is very surprising how many people don't understand that freestyle and folk style and Greco are two different styles of wrestling.
Yeah,
so people do not understand that or get that. I've had people when we watch this when I used to go to bar and stuff. People be like. It was like Randy Couture or somebody was fighting. That's more of a Greco wrestler, not a freestyle guy. There's total Greco, like, he's an Olympic Greco wrestler. Just shoot a double. Just shoot a double. I'm just like, that's not his style.
Yeah. Have you, I guess we might as well talk about this. Like, it might be another misconception that maybe, I don't know what your stance is, but there's been more and more people that say, if you judo without the gi is just Greco-Roman wrestling.
Oh,
I hear that. I've been hearing that a lot.
I've heard that most of my life. I've also heard that judo without a gi is just wrestling. And as someone that grew up wrestling and loves judo and stuff, like I became a judo player in college and stuff. Unless you've done both like very intimately, I'd say, or unless you've really done both, practiced both, they are two different things. What we do in judo and what we do in wrestling and what we do like in freestyle, folk style, even in Greco is totally different than what we do in judo. It is the throws are absolutely, even with no-gi are just totally different things.
Yeah. I mean, like right off the bat, there's no chokes and arm blocks, right? That's one.
Well, legally, I can't choke or arm lock you, but if something happens.
But also not too, like if I remember, you can't even do most leg attacks, like foot sweeps and stuff, right? In Greco. Okay,
in Greco, yeah. So in Greco, I'm not allowed to attack beneath the waist. So that's how it's very similar to how modern day judo. It's very similar to modern day judo now. You know, in judo, I can grab the
belt. In judo, you can leg sweep and leg attacks. That's what I'm saying. How people might get confused. Well, in Greco, I can't attack the legs. Okay, I'm not allowed to sweep or attack the legs in a way. I have to throw the person, body lock throws, head throws, all these suplexes, all these things to throw the person over. Okay, using the body. So when you see that in judo, you hear, oh, you can't attack beneath the waist. They think automatically, oh, so just like Greco. But we're allowed to do sweeps, ashiwaza and stuff, grab the legs when we go into newaza. Where like in freestyle, I can do a lot of throws. I just can't suplex in freestyle.
I believe you can. Can you freestyle?
Oh, I think you can, just not in. I don't know. Is it folk style?
It's folk style. Yeah, it's definitely folk style because that's what we do in high school and college and stuff, and middle school and elementary school. American folk style to protect younger people, since they're the ones usually doing it. You cannot suplex, and even if I slam a guy, pick him up to do like a lateral drop or something, my knee has to touch the ground first.
Wow,
so I'm not just picking you up and just slamming you down. I have to pick you up. My knee has to touch the mat first, then I can take you down. If you can visualize that. And rules have changed. I understand. I haven't wrestled in 30 years and stuff. And if I try to keep up with the rules and stuff because of the Olympics, and even some Olympic rules that get changed really weird me out. So
yeah, I mean, look at Taekwondo. Jeez.
Yeah, but in my opinion, they are two different things. And unless you've done both, like very seriously, you're not going to understand. I can understand how people how people can say, "Oh, it's just like wrestling, or it's wrestling in your pajamas, or judo's like."
I was specifically talking about greco and judo. People were saying specifically that they understand. Yeah, they understand freestyle is different from judo, but they're saying, "Oh, greco is the same as judo. Judo just has the gi on." Like, is what I've been hearing. So
yeah, it's not. It's not. It's very, very different because you got. It's just like I said, we have judo, we have sweeps, we can grab the legs once we're on the ground and stuff. We have the submission attempts, and we don't do as big as, like, our big throws are different than wrestling big throws. Like, we don't do over the top suplexes or belly to bellies or belly to backs or belly to side suplexes. So people can just visualize. It's easy to understand that when I call it that. Than the way we do Tayatoshi, because I can't do Tayatoshi technically in a Greco match. Okay. Because I'm using the leg to block his body. Yeah. Now, if I brought the leg maybe all the way up to his waist, like a really bad, like an Oguruma or something like that. Yeah, I guess so. I can't do Hizaguruma.
But why would you?
Do Oguruma. I can't do Uchimata. I can't do Haragoshi. I can't do Hanagoshi. I can do Ogoshi. I can do Ippon Seonagi. Okay, I can do Koshiguruma. But even those are big throws and stuff. They're similar, but they're done slightly different because you're grabbing the body. So to me, it is not the same.
Yeah, it's really, it sounds like some people would still probably say, like, well, okay, besides that, it's still very similar. But people don't, unless you actually compete in the sport, I guess, you're not going to realize how small things like that in the rules affects the game, you know? So yeah.
It's one of the things where I see some people that train wrestling or do certain things for practice, but have never competed, you know? Yeah. And I'll hear them talk on other podcasts or other YouTube channels and stuff. And they'll be explaining, oh, this is how you do a double leg like this. I'm like, that is a beautiful explanation for a double leg, but that will never work in an actual application. All right. You're talking like someone that's trained wrestling, but has never wrestled in their life.
Yep.
It is different to be on the mat and how to do things than just I've taken wrestling classes or I've taken some judo classes. This is how it works. Like, no,
it's just like judo rules too, right? Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, this is how you actually do this. Is actual practication, how you're going to do this to somebody, where this is somebody that I think that person trained with a wrestler, maybe did like some wrestling at the gym or something, but the way they're talking, they've never wrestled a match in their life. They've never gone to a tournament and wrestled. So it's different things. Like it's just like when people, what they call them, like, what's it called? Those boxers that only box in the gym. What are they called?
Well,
there's a word for them.
I don't know what the word is. I know what you mean though, because that's basically me in Muay Thai. Guy that just boxes, does some light sparring at the gym and stuff, hits pads, compared to a guy that's actually fought in the ring and actually knows how it really feels to actually fight. I would never ever think I'm like a competent fighter. I just did Muay Thai for fun, you know. So
yeah. And I do hear some people talking that way, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. It's like, you're a gym fighter. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. You can defend yourself if you have to, but you never been in the ring. You don't know how it is. You never fought a real MMA fight. And that's where sometimes me, because I did grow up wrestling, doing full contact karate, taekwondo and stuff, kickboxing. I have 10 amateur MMA fights and stuff. I've done all these judo. I've done all these combat sports, not just in practice, not just in application, not just I've actually done these things. I don't know how to say it, what the correct word is right now, but it's not just, I don't just do it at a gym. I'm not just What do they call them? Damn, I can't remember the word right now. Is
Gym warriors?
Like a gym warrior, I guess, maybe. Yeah, that sounds good. Why not? We use gym warrior. I'm not just a gym warrior. I've done this in application. I know how it is to do when someone wants to beat the out of me. Okay. When you're fighting for your life in the cage, in the ring, on the mat, I know how it actually is. So that's where sometimes we differ, because I've actually done this stuff where, like, I fought in a cage, I did my judo, I got some good throws on people, but I didn't damage as much as I would if I was like on a judo mat or anything softer, because those damn MMA mats are so soft.
It's really interesting, this whole discussion, because I've been reading a lot about the ecological approach to teaching and skill acquisition. It's become like a hot topic in the BJJ community, which is really weird. That's around the same time that it was like just like reading the book. And it talks about all this stuff, like how the environment and the rules, like everything from just putting up a scoreboard, like changing the way that the scoreboard, like letting people see the scoreboard, not, and how the mat, how squishy the mat is, will affect how the person performs, basically. So your environment, the rules, whether you get to see the score, you get to see the time, you don't know whether you're ahead or not, basically. Everything will affect how you train and how you fight. So the whole idea behind that basically is you want to manipulate the environment to manipulate your behavior and learn skills that way, and the skill retention is better. But we had a lot of I had a lot of people message me saying that they want us to talk about it, Juan. But it's kind of like, even I think it was like hard to understand. It was a dense read. Oh
man,
yeah, I feel
I can't do it then.
Yeah, I was just like, how
did they make it a comic? Did they make it a comic book form?
Yeah, I'm really scratching my head in how I'm going to make that work. Because one, I could talk about it, but then I would because I'm not an expert and I don't understand it so deeply that I can explain it in the podcast, that I think I would be like, okay, in order to understand this podcast, you must have read these 5 books or something like that. Then that wouldn't work,
college
right?
Course.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. And then, or I can invite some of the coaches and the professor that wrote the book on the show, but they've been like on so many podcasts. Like, I listened to all of them, honestly. They've been on so many podcasts. I think I can't do a better job of asking questions at this point. I think you should just Google their name and listen to all their interviews. You probably get a better understanding from that. And I don't think I would do them justice and just waste their time with my talk. So I think what we can do is probably a few more months from now, we can do an episode to revisit our beginner and intermediate class. And we're going to talk about what we do now compared to when we first started it. Because I've been using some of these stuff in our class, and I'm starting to see some significant progress and evidence that this is working. So so we can just talk about that and how we approached it and applied it to our classes. So yeah, we can do that. That's my thought.
All right.
So
sounds good.
Also,
right,
Christian wants to come back on the podcast and talk about teaching too. I know Christian's not he's not a fan of what I'm talking about. So we had a little bit of discussion on Instagram about it. So it will be good to have him on and we can disagree.
Now that he's a black belt.
No, it's good to have, because he listened to the podcast that I was talking about. So I don't think he's read the books, but we can have a little discussion about it.
All right. Okay. So with that, I'm going to end the podcast. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Or is that it?
No, that's it.
All right. So with that, we must bid you adieu. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can like us on Facebook. You can like us on Instagram at Tatami Talk. You can like me on Instagram at _Jury_Juan. You can follow Anthony on Instagram at I'm going to say yours at Jury Anthony, but it's not. It is Anthony Throws. You should change yours. It's very similar to mine. It's at Anthony, not even at. Yeah, it is at Anthony Throws. You want to send us any questions, things you want us to go over, things you guys want to talk about, things that you might have some misconception about judo, or things you want us to talk about judo. You can always send it to us at Tatami Talk, not at Tatami Talk at gmail.com. I'm out of these ats right now. It's this dark void I'm in. That's what it's getting. It's this dark void is getting to me. I just want to at stuff. At me right now. All right. So with that, I think that's everything I got.
Yeah,
that's all
everything.
All things we plug normally. All right. So you can't see me, this void, but I'm doing my normal point that I normally do.
Right.
So Anthony, don't forget to
slap the mat.